start it now? All right, great. All right, I'm going to session on December 8th, 2014. Just a reminder, the regular meeting will begin at 6 and a special meeting will immediately follow the regular meeting. So I would have to announce at this point, Councilman Osborne will not be in attendance. We have on tonight's work session an item that will be presented to Council on Community Development Block Grant CDBG program, provide direction on the 5-year consolidation plan and potential grant application for FY 15-16. Carrie Wilkin will present, but Derek Horn, an Interim Development Service Director, will introduce Katie.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. On this item, Katie Wilkin, who has recently taken on the role of Interim Planning Manager in our department, will make a presentation on this item.
Thank you. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate the opportunity to be before you tonight. The reason I am before you with the CDBG program once again is that every 5 years we have to update the county's consolidated plan. All communities who participate in CDBG are required to have this plan. And as a participating community, we have to submit what the needs and projects of our community are. Just a little point, we were originally told that we weren't going to have to identify specific projects, and then just last week we heard we were going to have to identify special projects, so we are still in process of identifying some of those special projects. So the purpose of meeting with you tonight is just to go over what we're thinking about the needs and the projects and give you an opportunity to let us know anything we might be forgetting, anything you want us to further investigate. And also we wanted to update you next meeting on December 15th. We're going to have a public hearing on next year's grant application. So we have been meeting with some of the neighborhoods. You also remember that Christina Plant, the Neighborhood Services Coordinator, had done a presentation on some of the data looking at needs in our community before you several months ago. And we also had the information from the current consolidated plan, which we provided to you. And really what we're seeing is that there's not a significant change in the need we're seeing in the community. From the information provided to you to this year, they are changing how they're doing it. Currently we have high, medium, or low priority, and they're changing it to just high or low priority. And we can identify as much high priority as we want, but we do have to identify at least some low priority. You do have to make some prioritization. And so what we're seeing is most everything is a high priority, especially infrastructure, economic development, the list you see ahead of you. And those items that we are seeing that are lower priority for us are healthcare facilities, because we do have some really great resources here in our community with our hospitals. So that's not a major need for us because it's being served. And also because of the age of our homes, we're not seeing the problems with lead-based paint that some of the other communities have. Some of the projects we've identified, we would propose carrying forward the projects that are in our current consolidated plan that have not been completed. And there are several projects, such as water line replacement, that we have had made significant progress on, but they're not complete. So we would recommend forwarding those projects as well. Some new ones we've identified, we had a really great meeting with the Canada Village neighborhood, and they identified the need for lighting in the neighborhood as well as lighting and some other improvements in their parks. And so we're actually working with the engineering department right now to really identify what's needed in that neighborhood, and that is going to be staff's recommendation for this year's grant application, our improvements in Canada Village. We've never done a grant application in Canada Village before, so it's also a great opportunity to kind of spread the projects around in the community and hit a community we haven't been able to work in before. Out of the general plan, we actually identified alley improvements for historic Goodyear besides some of their infrastructure needs that are already captured. There are some alleys that aren't being taken care of very well, and while we don't have a specific plan for how to address those, that was something identified in the neighborhood that they would like us to help look at how we can improve those alleys.
Is this the first time? Because I remember hearing
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first with CDBG. I think they have brought forth attention of maintenance, and that's why we're, maybe it's a potential CDBG project. We decided to go ahead and identify it as that.
When I was on CDBG at the primary, we did discuss doing the alleyways.
Yes.
And it wasn't very interesting to everyone. So we dropped it because we didn't think we could go very far with it. Maybe now we can.
Exactly, Councilmember Campbell. We're looking for new ways to make this more interesting to the CDAC to see if we could get funded.
We used to have all that flooding back there, and it was just a real mess. So,
Yes.
thank you for bringing that forward, Katie.
Thank you. We're also looking at what transit infrastructure is possibly CDBG eligible. With those other funds we have, there might be a way to leverage additional funding to get bigger projects. So we're looking at what projects that could potentially be. And then also we have commercial facade rehab in there, but we don't have anything about commercial acquisition. Acquiring properties is eligible, so we wanted to make sure that's in there too. So some projects in major need of redevelopment, you can use CDBG funds to acquire property and possibly demolish or rehab. So those are just a few that we've identified. We're also still waiting. North Subdivision Neighborhood was having a special meeting to talk about what projects they wanted to put forward. So we're still waiting to hear from them if they came up with some new project ideas. I also received any nonprofit that wants to apply for CDBG funds has to have their project listed in our plan. So it was also suggested to me that I contact a couple of our major nonprofits, such as the Boys and Girls Club, Homeless Youth Connection, the YMCA, and the Food Bank to find out if they have any projects that could be, or programs that could be eligible, and at least put them in the plan so that they're eligible to apply. They, just like the city, would still have to come forward to the city council for approval and support to make an application, though. So you would still at a future time get a chance to talk with those nonprofits if they wanted to apply for CDBG funds.
Katie, I do know that All Faith Community is very interested in getting their own building. And I've been on some of the discussions where they said they really wish that the city had a building that they could use, because they use the hall behind Christ Lutheran Evangelical Church. And if they had their own dedicated building, they could offer more services than what they offer now. And so they probably would be Cassie Wilkin is who you need to contact, and I'm sure she would be very interested in talking with you of just about doing that.
Thank you. That's exactly the ideas I was hoping to get.
Yeah, she would be a great partner for that grant as well, and then we could bring in other partners as well.
Okay, I will talk to her.
Okay,
that is a
you.
potentially eligible project.
Katie, and Councilmember Pizzillo or Holman may be better informed of this than I am, but I know that thank you, the parking lot at the Lending Closet. I realize that,
but it's in Avondale.
It's in Avondale, but so is the Boys and Girls Clubs, and it serves our community as well. So I don't know how that plays into it, and I'm just curious.
Are you talking about the paving of it?
Like I said, somebody else may be better informed. I know that's been a long time problem.
Councilman Holman is.
Yeah, actually, we're just short $5,000 now.
Okay.
To being able to do that. I don't know if expanding a building, because the next thing we have to do is if our 110 knee scooters and 150 wheelchairs are all returned at the same time, we'll be operating on the roof. And that wouldn't be comfortable for me, quite honestly. Is that something, Katie, that kind of expansion?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Councilmember Homan and Campbell. It is an expansion like that would be eligible if it's physically located in Avondale. Right. I can contact Avondale's people and talk about they should be undergoing this same process with their community, and we can put that project forward
But
for
thank you for bringing that up,
consideration.
Bill. But I think right now we are going to be able to do that in January.
Okay. Well, like I said, I wasn't sure.
And
Thank you.
Avondale has their own funds. They're not in.
Yeah, they're an entitlement community.
Yeah, so they have a certain amount of money. If we became an entitlement, we would not get a third of what we get now. So perhaps they'll be very amenable to add this HERP project to them rather than us doing it. I don't know that we
It's
could
possible.
do it.
I mean, I will definitely reach out and talk to staff.
Councilman Loretano.
I just had two questions. The first is, what is the average? I know we talked about this before, but could you refresh my memory? What is the average award that we can look for? Because we got some really big projects I think we're thinking about here.
Thank you, Councilmember Loretano. The average award is about $350,000. Annually, we've been getting about $300,000, but those years that we did receive funding. But just 2 years ago, we received an almost $600,000 award. So sometimes you can get really large ones, but that is the hard part with these types of projects in a community of our size is we have projects like a senior center or a community center in there, but it would be really hard to try and fund that completely with CDBG funds because they're not going to give us the $1.5 million that it would probably take.
And then my other question was with the transportation. We can't, for the same reason, because it's only the 300,000. And how can we use that? Is that something we can add bike lanes or sidewalks in certain areas? I mean, because we can't add buses with that.
No, thank you, Council Member. Sidewalks are definitely an eligible project. Bike lanes are if you're building a new road, but just to restripe or add some that wouldn't be eligible. But if we're building a new road and we want to include bike lanes, that would be eligible. You can also we want to put that in there as a placeholder since we're not sure what the future of our transportation system are. But you could fund a portion of your transit system. So if we do have a circulator route in the city of Goodyear and we know 20% of the people who use it are qualifying low mod, we could ask for CDBG funds to pay for 20% of the operating cost for that program. Or you can use it for things like giving seniors rides or other populations in need of transportation. It can get tricky, and we don't have to be that specific with the project at this point. So we're just kind of putting it in there of, funding transit is a possibility, but until we know what we want to do with our transit in more detail.
Is this something we could put in there for someday to kind of hook on to Avondale's system? I know we talked about that at one point.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We were talking about just kind of expanding theirs for a stop or two into our city.
As long as you're funding for low, moderate income people, yes. So whatever portion of that serves low, moderate income, we can use the funding for low, moderate income. There are rules, of course, that come with federal money, but in general, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure that'll be the amount that we would be able to fund something. I love the idea.
Okay.
I love the idea. I think more for Dial-A-Ride or some of the other vouchers, because that's it. Getting people to medical appointments makes it. I just want to clarify on the driveway or in the parking lot. You have enough to cover it? I mean, I know you had a contractor come forth, right? You talked to somebody in my presence, and I know that. I just want to know. I didn't quite understand.
The status we are now, if the $35,000 we needed to redo the parking lot, we have identified $30,000 that we actually have in hand, and we have two major projects going on right now that to raise the other $5,000. There still is a potential to have a donation for the asphalt, but we won't know anything about that until January, and that's probably what you overheard.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Great.
Okay. The good news is every year there is a period when you can amend the plan. So there will be an opportunity before the next grant cycle to amend the plan. So if there is something we forgot, we will have an opportunity to add that. This will set us for this current grant application cycle, though, of course. And so just to next steps, I'm continuing to reach out to the community. So before the end of the month, if any of you think of projects or hear of a nonprofit that, oh, Katie needs to talk to them, you can send me an email or let them know to contact me. I'm still collecting information. And then I will be submitting that to the county. And then, as I said, next week we are going to be talking about the grant application for this fiscal year. That's all I have.
And Katie, I do believe that the northern subdivisions are meeting on Tuesday night,
Okay,
the 9th.
that's correct. Yes. Thank you, Council Member.
Any other questions? Councilman Stipp.
Katie, how hard? I don't know. I've started it, so I have to finish asking the question. Is there? I know the rules for CDBG. I'm going to say virtually change every single year. Sometimes it's a little more emphasis on this, sometimes a little less on that, etc. Do we have somewhere a short little summary of what's in vogue this year, or what are the kinds of things that, when we're out in the community, we're not thinking about it all year long, and then it comes to December, and then we sit here and go, oh, I think I think this. Is there something that we can get that might help us, well, at least me, remember as the year goes on what kinds of things to be on the lookout for, that we can say, hey, at this time of the year, this might be a good CDBG project for you?
Thank you.
Not only that, it's in conversation, and when we attend events at the different neighborhoods.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying.
Any of our events, people come up to us, and we, it's hard to go, let me get back to you, let me think about it. But if we had something in our iPhones that told us, that we could put in there that told us, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Stipp. I would absolutely be able to put together like a one-page, half-page summary. As
nothing to do.
Condense, yeah. I'm bored, so I'll take it. No, that information is there. It's just a matter of throwing it on a sheet so it's easy for you guys to carry around. So that'd be no problem.
Anything else? Anything else from council? All right. I think with that, we probably won't go into any information items on here. So I'm going to adjourn this. Meeting adjourned.